Hi guys and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a huge book haul. These are all the books that I've managed to find in September. It has been my birthday month, which is why I've decided to treat myself to so many books. I've just really been in the mood to go book shopping a lot and I thought I'd just treat myself, you know. And then a couple of these books were also gifts as well. I also went on a little trip to York during September and a lot of these books I found in the charity shops in York City Centre. And a few of them were also from Waterstones on their buy one get one half price offer, so I managed to get them all fairly affordably. I had a couple of vouchers that I used in Waterstones, so I'd probably got them for, I don't know, between like 30 to 40 pounds in total. To say that I've got like 20 books here roughly, I think that is a pretty good deal, to be fair. So yeah, without further ado, I will just start showing you the books. So first off, I thought I'd show the books that I got as gifts. So there's three here. The first one, I did pick this one myself, but my sister paid for it, so I'm going to class this as like a birthday present from her as well. I went to see my sister in Liverpool and we went into the shop and I found this book, and because it was like around my birthday, I thought I would treat myself to it finally. I've heard such good things about this book. I didn't even say what it was called. It's The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, and I've heard so much hype about her as a sci-fi author. So this book is set on a spaceship called the Wayfarer, and I think we're just following this crew who are like a mishmash of different species and personalities, and they get offered the job of a lifetime to build a hyperspace tunnel to a distant planet. Like I said, I've heard amazing things about Becky Chambers. I don't think I've seen a bad review of any book that she's ever written, so I thought I would start with this one since it has got a lot of hype and the cover is absolutely stunning. I feel like I might read this like around winter time. I don't know why, but I feel like when it's cold this will feel really like cozy and nice. So yeah, I'll hopefully get to this before the end of this year. And then the next two books that I got given were from my boyfriend, and the first book that I got is actually like a non-fiction book, and it's The Signs, written by Caroline Faulkner. It's basically a guide to contemporary astrology. I don't know a whole lot about astrology, but I am very interested in it. As a Virgo, I do feel like a Virgo, if that makes sense. Everything that I read about Virgos I do relate to. This is just a book about like how to read your chart and things like that, about all the different signs, about their strengths and weaknesses. So I can't wait to like sit down, take some notes, look at my birth chart, you know. So yeah, love that for me. And bless him, the other book he got me, I have read this before, but it is my favourite book possibly of all time, and it's Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. I read this on my Kindle years ago. I've never been able to find a physical copy. I always look out for one, but I've never found one before, and yeah, I think he found one for me online, and this is just the cutest book because it's the same like height as regular books, so it looks nice on the shelf, but it's quite thin, which is strange, but it looks so pretty. I'm gonna reread this book someday because I would say this is like my favourite thriller of all time. It is the darkest book. I remember crying my eyes out and everything about it was just amazing. It was an easy 5-star, but I would really like to reread this now that I've forgotten big chunks of it. Obviously there are some parts of this book, because it is super dark, that are scarring, that have definitely stuck in my brain, but a lot of this book I've actually forgotten. I might do a reading vlog where I reread some of my old 5-star favourites now that it's been like quite a long time since I've read them, and see if they still hold up to that. And I will definitely include this in there if I do that, because this is like my favourite book ever. So thanks to my dear boyfriend for getting me that. And now let's move on to the books that I got from Waterstones. I did have some leftover vouchers from possibly like last Christmas that I just forgot that I had, and I got 6 books because they do a buy one get one half price, so I'm obviously going to take advantage of that offer. So the first book I picked up was The Plot by Jean Hanff Correlates, and this book, I think I saw it on Gabby Reed's channel. I think she read this very quickly, maybe in even one sitting, and she said it was just super gripping and interesting. In this book we're following this teacher called Jake, and he had a student who died really young, but he'd written this story which was just an amazing story, and Jake is a failed novelist himself, so when this student dies he takes this story for himself and he publishes it under his own name. Somebody comes to him saying that he knows what he's done, might potentially be like blackmailing him or something. I just thought this sounded like a really interesting story, and basically anything Gabby Reed recommends to me I will give it a go. We've also got a little endorsement by Stephen King on the front, but when do we not? So But it does say insanely readable, it's remarkable. And it ensnares you in a rich tangle of literary vanities, treachery and fraud. Breathtakingly suspenseful. So yeah, this sounds really exciting. I might read this during autumn because it sounds like it could be like verging on dark academia vibes, who knows. So yeah, that's the first one I got. So the next book I got also has an endorsement from Stephen King, and it says I haven't read anything this exciting since Gone Girl. So this is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward, and I almost put this book down because I don't really like the cover. I know that's dead vain, but I don't know, I just don't like the red and the yellow together, and I'm also not a huge fan of the sprayed red edges, but I tried not to be vain. So the back says, this is the story of a murderer, a stolen child, revenge. This is the story of Ted, who lives with his young daughter Lauren and his cat Olivia in an ordinary house at the end of an ordinary street. All these things are true, and yet some of them are lies. An unspeakable secret binds the family together, and when a new neighbour moves in next door, the truth may destroy them all, because there's something buried in the dark forest at the end of Needless Street, but it's not what you think. Ooh. Despite the cover not being my favourite, this still sounds like a really good read. I think it's a bit of like a horror thriller. And to be fair, if Stephen King's saying it's as exciting as Gone Girl, that book changed my life. So hopefully this will have the same effect. So the next book I got is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyimide. This is a young adult mystery thriller that has been compared to Gossip Girl and Get Out. So this sounds like an epic combination to me. So this book is set in a private school academy, and we're following these two black students who are being targeted by this anonymous texter who is sending these texts to like everyone in the school, I think, and revealing their secrets. I'm really interested to read this. I think I'm going to be doing the Spooktober readathon. I might do a video like talking about it, but this would be a really good pick for the, well, it would fit a few prompts actually, but I feel like I might read this for the BIPOC prompt. It also says it delves deep into the heart of institutionalized racism. It sounds like a fun but still very thought-provoking book, especially if it's got the combination of Gossip Girl and Get Out. I love both of those things, so hopefully I'll love this too. Next up, I picked up Dear Child by Romy Hausman, and this is a thriller that starts where others end, it says on the back. A windowless shack in the woods, Lena and her two children live by the rules set by their captor, the father. Meals, bathroom visits, study time are strictly scheduled and meticulously observed. He protects his family from the dangers lurking in the outside world and makes sure his children will always have a mother to look after them. One day, Lena manages to flee, but the nightmare continues. It seems her tormentor wants to get back what belongs to him, and then there is the question of whether she really is the woman called Lena who disappeared without a trace over 13 years ago. The police and Lena's family are all desperately trying to piece together a puzzle that doesn't quite seem to fit. This sounds so good. I do love a story that follows a missing person who might not be the original missing person. If you've ever watched The Missing on BBC, I think, season 2 had like a similar sort of story. It also sounds like it could be a little bit like Room. So this sounds like a very interesting book. I think that's all I've got to say about this, other than it sounds like a very exciting plot and very me. So the next one that I picked up was My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. So this book is about a girl called Vanessa who was in a sexual relationship with her teacher when she was 15 years old. But this teacher that she was having this relationship with has been accused of sexually abusing another student. Vanessa is adamant that her relationship with her teacher was consensual, it was love, and she has to look back on this time and try and understand that it was actually abusive. It seems like it's something that's really difficult for her to grasp, the fact that she could have been a victim of grooming and abuse instead of the love that she thought it always was. I definitely think I need to be in the right headspace to go into this. I feel like this book is going to delve really deeply into the complexities of abuse and how people might frame that abuse in their heads to just move on from it. So I'm really looking forward to this book, but I am wary that I'll probably need to, I don't know, approach this with a bit of caution because it probably is quite disturbing and upsetting. And then the last book that I picked up from Waterstones, I just grabbed this instantly, and that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I have only seen 5-star reviews for this book, which scares me a little bit because I don't want to be that one person that doesn't like this book. I'm not going to read the back because I don't want to know what this book is about at all. I sort of want to go into it blind. I am going to read this very soon because I'm very excited about it. So many people love this book, so I'm already going into it with pretty high expectations. I don't want to know anything about it. So I've heard that it's a romance though, and I've heard that it is very emotional, quite dark, possibly has domestic abuse elements to it. I'm not entirely sure. It definitely has trigger warnings though, because I always like skip past everyone's posts like, nope, don't want to see it, don't want to see it. But this has been huge on Bookstagram recently. I feel like everyone has read it except for me. So yeah, I will definitely be reading this before the end of this year. And now onto my little charity shop stack. Like I said, I went to York for a couple of days with my boyfriend, just as a little trip, like a little holiday, because we're not going abroad this year. And one of the days we spent shopping. We went to all the charity shops that we could see, headed straight to the books. Any book that was on my TBR, I was pretty much getting it. And it was a very successful trip. I've got some very exciting books. First one I picked up was Watching You by Lisa Jewell. If you've watched any of my other videos before, you will know that I'm a big fan of Lisa Jewell. I think I've read 4 of her books now. I really loved Then She Was Gone, The Night She Disappeared, and Invisible Girl. I didn't like The Family Upstairs, but a lot of other people really like that book. So yeah, when I saw this, I instantly picked it up. So this book is about a woman who has been working abroad for the past 4 years. She's come back and she's now staying in her big brother's spare room. She meets the man next door, who's a head teacher at a local school, who's twice her age, but is extraordinarily attractive. And she develops an obsession with him. That's basically all that it says on the back. I love an obsession trope when it comes to thrillers. I love following a morally grey, slightly unreliable narrator, so I'm sure I will love this one. And yeah, this will be my 5th Lisa Jewell book that I've read in the last 2 years, so if you've never read anything by her before, I would definitely recommend you do so. The next book I got was The Couple Next Door by Shari Lapena. This is a recent addition to my TBR, I think. I saw a lot of people talking about her latest release and they really love that book. I don't know how many other books she's written, but I think this one is a couple of years old now. As soon as I read the blurb for this, it reminded me a little bit of the Maddie McCann case. So the back says, your neighbour told you that she didn't want your 6-month-old daughter at the dinner party. Nothing personal, she just couldn't stand her crying. Your husband said it would be fine. After all, you only live next door. You'll have the baby monitor and you'll take it in turns to go back every half an hour. Your daughter was sleeping when you checked on her last, but now as you race up the stairs in your deathly quiet house, your worst fears are realised. She's gone. You've never had to call the police before, but now they're in your home and who knows what they'll find there. I'm very intrigued by this premise. It's very vague, I guess. I mean, I imagine that happens within the couple of first chapters and then we just go from there. I'm hoping that this one will just have lots of twists to it. It will be very fast paced and I will be able to absolutely speed through it. The next 2 books that I found were actually recommended to me by my dad, and they are Tall Oaks and We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker. Firstly, aren't these gorgeous covers? This is like one of my favourite colours ever, so I literally love that. Very nice colours and unusual looking thrillers. I don't actually know what these are about, so let's discover that together. So this one, We Begin at the End. 30 years ago, a teenage Vincent King becomes a killer. Now released from prison, he's back in his hometown of Cape Haven, California, but not everyone is pleased to welcome him home, like Star Radley, his ex-girlfriend and sister of the girl he killed. Ooh. Duchess Radley, Star's 13-year-old daughter, is a part carer, part protector to her younger brother, Robin, and to her deeply troubled mother. But in trying to protect Star, Duchess inadvertently sets off a chain of events that will have tragic consequences not only for her family, but also for Vincent and the whole town. But how far can you run from the past when the past seems doomed to repeat itself? This is quite a chunky book. I think it's roughly... Oh, it's not that bad. It's 450 pages. This sounds really good, although those names, Star and Duchess, not a fan. But yeah, like I said, my dad recommended this. I do trust his recommendations. Picked this one up straight away, and this one was sitting right next to it. This one is about Tall Oaks, which is an idyllic place to live until the disappearance of 3-year-old Harry throws the tight-knit community into chaos. Desperate mother Jess is simultaneously leading the search and battling her own grief and self-destructive behaviour. Teenage Manny's absent father has left him with strange ideas of how to make his mark. Photographer Jerry is determined to break away from his controlling mother once and for all. And investigating them all, a police chief with a hidden obsession of his own. I love a story like this. I love reading about small, close-knit villages and towns where someone goes missing and everyone thinks they know each other, but there's actually a lot of secrets to be shared. I also like reading from multiple POVs and seeing how they all merge together, so hopefully this is similar. So yeah, can't wait to get to both of these books. They both sound very, very good. Next up, I will share the 2 non-fiction books that I got from the charity shops. This one, I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. This book is about the author's obsession with finding the Golden State Killer, who was a very prolific killer in the 1980s. Until very, very recently, nobody knew his identity, but I'm 99% sure that this book came out before they found out who he was. So I wasn't sure if this was going to be a bit outdated already, but it does say that it has been updated with material which takes in the extraordinary events that followed its initial publication. So I thought it's probably going to have something in there that actually acknowledges that we now know the identity of the Golden State Killer. I first got a glimpse into that case when I listened to the Case File podcast. They did like a 5-part series. The amount of people that he killed and the victims that he left in his destructive path is insane. I can't believe that they never caught him at the time. So yeah, I'm very excited to get to this book. It will be the first like true crime book that I've ever read. I prefer to listen to them on like podcasts or on YouTube videos, but I've heard a lot of good things about this book. And then the second non-fiction book that I got was The Prison Doctor, Women Inside by Dr. Amanda Brown. And I picked this one up because I recently read This Is Going to Hurt by Dr. Adam Kay. Well, I listened to it on audio and I found that book so fascinating. It was a very quick, fun read. It was full of humour, but it also had very heartbreaking and thought-provoking moments that said a lot about our NHS system and about how junior doctors are treated. So I think this is a book that's on a similar vein to this. We're following a doctor who obviously works in a female prison. It is shedding a light on the heartbreaking and the horrifying stories that you might expect from a doctor in a prison, whilst also sharing a compassionate light on some of the women in there, maybe some of the reasons why they ended up there in the first place. Hopefully I will learn a lot from this book. So the next book that I got was Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. So I think this is a post-apocalyptic kind of book. I recently read Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam, and that book has post-apocalyptic elements in it, and I really enjoyed that book. So the blurb says, one snowy night in Toronto, famous actor Arthur Leander dies on stage whilst performing the role of a lifetime. That same evening, a deadly virus touches down in North America. The world will never be the same again. 20 years later, Kirsten, an actress in the Travelling Symphony, performs Shakespeare in the settlements that have grown up since the collapse, but then her newly hopeful world is threatened. If civilization was lost, what would you preserve and how far would you go to protect it? The back of the book itself probably wouldn't have sold me if I'd never heard of this book before, but I've heard a lot of good reviews about this book. So yeah, hopefully I'll get to this soon and I will let you know how I find it. Okay, I've tried my very best to remove this sticker from this book, but it's taking too long and I can't be bothered waiting any longer. So this book is Snap by Belinda Bauer. This book just says on the back, it was nearly an hour since the car had coughed and spluttered and jerked and rolled to a crunchy halt on the hard shoulder of the southbound M5 motorway. That made it over half an hour since their mother had left them there to walk to an emergency phone. Stay in the car, I won't be long. And I think at this point, we're following her children. The mum never came back, so these kids are sort of living by themselves. The oldest son is trying to protect them, I think, and he's trying to cover the fact that their mum is no longer looking after them. And that is literally all that it says. This sounds like it's going to be very fast-paced, thrillery, twisty, exciting, and I genuinely can't wait to get to this. That's all I gotta say. And then the last book is more of a sci-fi thriller, I think. This is one of the books that I mentioned in my mid-year freakout tag because I really want to read more sci-fi, but I love thrillers, so those two together just match made in heaven. The back of the book says, are you happy in your life? These are the last words Jason Dessen hears before the masked abductor knocks him unconscious, before he awakes to find himself strapped to a gurney surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits, before the man he's never met smiles down at him and says, welcome back. In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not the one he knows. His wife is not his wife, his son was never born, and Jason is not an ordinary college physics professor. Is it this world or the other that's the dream? The answer lies in a journey more wondrous and horrifying than anything Jason could have imagined. It sounds very, very exciting. I'm really excited to get to this book. I feel like it's going to feel kind of Black Mirror-y. Hopefully it's like very short chapters, lots of twists. If I like this book, then I will read Recursion, which is also by Blake Crouch, I think. So yeah, well excited to get to this. That was all the books for this video. Normally I would not have this many books in 1 month, and I'm probably gonna go on a book buying ban for the rest of the year. Because I'm gonna actually need to get through some of these books before I accumulate any more. They're not gonna be able to fit in my house. Let me know if you've read any of these books, if there's any that I should bump up on my TBR list. If you like this video, give it a like. If you want to subscribe, that would mean the world to me. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!